A disability is something that has a major impact on your life.
Every disability is different.
And it's never the same thing for two people. I am blind in my right eye totally and partially sighted in my left eye.
I was 18 years old. We were traveling way too fast on a gravel road. Broke my neck, my back.
My Asperger's syndrome and my cerebral palsy.
I have anxiety and depression. People would have no idea just talking to me.
Being independent means different things to different people.
I want to live in my own house. I want to pay my own bills.
Live independently and not rely on other people.
When someone is not able to live as independently as they can, it does have a detrimental effect on people's physical and mental well-being.
It's no complicated thing. It's just that people with disabilities want to be included.
Plenty of people get stuck in ruts when they feel like they can't overcome something in their life. That's where Lift comes in.
Living independently for today and tomorrow. Lift. We help people of all ages and all types of disabilities find the resources or acquire the skills to live as independently as possible.
We serve the southeastern 18 counties here at the Billings office. We have a variety of things that we offer. We can help with grant funding for adaptive equipment.
Maybe a home modification so they're able to access their home. We help people to find that funding.
Helping people apply for Social Security benefits.
Medicaid, Medicare, housing.
They have a peer support group. Peer support, I think, is key.
Sharing life experiences is one of the most powerful things to help people who might be new to disability, who might be struggling with their disability.
Youth transitions is kids that are transitioning out of high school. They need to learn those adulting skills. It might be rent an apartment, learn how to grocery shop, budgeting.
Help someone advocate for themselves in a school or an employment setting. One of our biggest strengths is providing folks with information and referral. If we can't help you, we hope to know who can.
A lot of times we'll have a potential consumer call in and they think that they just have one need, and it turns out that we end up finding 3 or 4 things we can actually do for them.
You can just come in and say, hey, I feel like I have this going on. Can you help me? And we can, which is so cool to me. I love that.
Most of us on staff at Lift have identified ourselves as having one or more disabilities. That is helpful in many cases.
It's easier to empathize with someone when you yourself have struggled with a disability.
This is what we specialize in. This is who we are, and this is what we do.
And it costs nothing to go to Lift. It's a nonprofit organization and they're there to help.
Somebody that was a consumer that was working with Lift was asked to do an art project. He visualized that the balloon helps to lift people up. And then it became the logo, and it's stuck.
There's been success on all kinds of levels.
It's really rewarding to have a consumer go, hey, I was able to do this by myself today.
We want people to live their best life as independent as possible.
Live as everyone else in society and live as a part of society, not apart from society.
Everybody needs help. Sometimes you just need a little more help, and that's okay. That's absolutely okay.
There's plenty of life to live still, and there's a way you can do it. Keep chipping away at it, little by little by little.
Knowledge is power. Let's share it, for crying out loud.
Send us an email, give us a call. We'll do our best to help.
We can definitely help figure out what your needs are and get started on that. We're one of many steps in the path to independence, and we're happy to be serving people here in the community.
Good day and welcome to Living Well in Montana. Living Well in Montana is a program of living independently for today and tomorrow, or LIFT as we like to call ourselves. LIFT is a nonprofit, what is known as a Center for Independent Living. We are a nonprofit source of information, resources, and advocacy for persons with disabilities across an 18-county service area in southeastern and south central Montana. For more information about LIFT, I encourage you to visit our website at liftt.org or download our app for your Apple or Android mobile device. Before I introduce our guest here, the following program will be a discussion of end-of-life care and death, and we realize that some viewers may find this a difficult or even traumatic subject for viewing, and we understand if you choose to surf to a different channel or click on a different video. But we feel that the frank and honest discussion and information that will be presented here is of vital importance to those who choose to continue watching. At LIFT, we are all about helping people with disabilities live independent lives on their own terms. But what happens when life, as it does for all of us, reaches its end? What kind of assistance is available for people with disabilities and their families when it comes to maintaining a level of independence and self-determination? Many people and their loved ones find such assistance from individuals known as an end-of-life or death doula, and it just so happens that LIFT has among our team members a certified end-of-life doula, our own finance director, Deborah Acosta, who joins me today to discuss what an end-of-life doula does and also discuss what we all might consider as we consider the mortality of ourselves and our loved ones. Thanks for being here, Deborah.
Thank you, Jed. It's good to be here.
Let's start with the basics. What is an end-of-life doula, and what is their basic sort of duties, responsibilities, how you'd like to?
An end-of-life doula is a non-practitioner support system to individuals and their families that have individuals who are dying.
So non-practitioner means?
Non-practitioner means we don't deal with anything medical.
Okay.
We are actually kind of like a go-between between the hospice team who deals with the medications, the machines, all the medical things that may come with a loved one passing. If they have cancer or they have some other secondary disease that's involved in their passing at the time. Let's say somebody is just told that they have stage 4 terminal cancer. That's a hard hit, and a lot of things that come with that. So if a family member finds out that that's what's happening to them in their life, they, after the initial shock, may sit there and wonder, what am I going to do? What do I do? And as a death doula, they can call me and I'll come and visit them. And we'll sit down and we'll discuss the different possibilities, the different options that they may have as far as treatments and what the result of those treatments could be, so that they have more choices. A lot of times now in our society, medicine or the doctors have a tendency to just everybody hands over their choices to the doctors without realizing that with a little bit of education, they can make different choices and they can choose the process that they want to go down. My mother's in dialysis, and she's chosen to continue in her life on dialysis. She doesn't have the option for a transplant or any of those things. So she had to come to terms with the fact that she'll be on dialysis for the rest of her life. But in that also, she has a choice. If she was to, in some way, have to stop the dialysis, then she would have a choice in when that stops and the process that she wants to go through. The other thing is preparing your financial status, or maybe you're somebody who doesn't have a lot of possessions, but you have a few things that mean a lot to you, and you want to make sure that they get to certain family members. I help the patients prepare that kind of stuff. We also go through the medical paperwork, and what I mean by that is there's a form, it's usually on green paper, that's called a POST. And that is a form that tells the emergency people or the medical community how you want certain situations to be handled. If you had a severe stroke, or if you had a heart attack and your heart stopped, do you want them to revive you at all costs? Or do you want them to do what's called just basic measures? You try the doctors try reviving you for 5 minutes, and if that doesn't happen, then they let the patient go. And that's what a POST does. It gives medical responsibility to somebody outside of yourself, so that if you're incapacitated, they can make the decisions for you.
It's also known as medical power of attorney.
Medical
correct?
power of attorney also, yeah.
Okay. All right. What does it mean to be certified as an end-of-life doula? What type of training and continuing education might you go through?
I got my training through an online program out of Denver, and basically what they take you through is communication and interpretation. When you're working with people who are upset, family members who are distraught because their loved one is dying or passing or getting old, or they're not sure, or they're just the kind of person who likes to be prepared, you have to be able to communicate with people and help them look at all corners of the situations. For example, many people don't think about what they want going on while they're on or in their deathbed. Do they want the windows open? Do they want to be outside? Do they want music playing? Do they want specific people to be there with them? Do they want their pets to be there with them? There's a lot of things to actually consider that people don't think about, and at the last minute it is a little too late. So I kind of come through with questions. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? So you have to be able to hear what they're saying and relay it back to them and say, is this what you meant? Is this what you would like to see? Is this how you'd like to see it? The other key to anything is being professional with them. This is about them, not my beliefs. It's about their beliefs, what they want. It's their last wishes. So we respect that as much as we can. And we are honest and upfront. So they train us to how to get that information for people, how to encourage them and stimulate their thought process. Of course, then there's the technical side in taking care of somebody who's passing. Things like somebody who's passing, their temperatures can vary. So you can do different things like put a washcloth on their forehead, or if their mouth has been open for a while and they've got dry lips, you help them take care of their lips and, keep their lips moist and their mouth moist and those kinds of things. And at the end of it, they go through the values and the ethics of being a death doula. One of the most important things is remembering that it isn't about us and our beliefs. It's about the person who is passing and their family. So you have to be kind of neutral in that area. You've got Native Indian traditions, you've got people from India, you've got Hindu, you've got Christian, you've got Catholic. There's a whole array of different beliefs So you have to respect all of them because it's their process, not yours. So, and then at the end of it, you know, the class that I took had me go through all of the questions for myself, you know, so that was really good. It helped me understand how people would feel in that position, you know, because I had to deal with blocks that I had in my thinking, things that I didn't really want to think about, or things that I had built up a false idea of.
So you start off with a list of, to sort of steer the conversation perhaps a different direction. You mentioned the question. So when you encounter a new, what we would say in independent living as a consumer or a patient or however, there's a list of questions you go through with them and the family?
Yeah, there are some basic ones. First, you've got to find out what they already have in place. Do they have a will? Do they have their medical information? What are their religious beliefs? What are their spiritual beliefs? You know, there's kind of a difference there in people's minds. So you have to get to know them and let them tell you. And, you know, you ask personal questions about their life. Are there people in your life under certain circumstances, somebody's been told suddenly you have cancer and you've got 6 months to live? Are there people in their lives that they would like to reconcile with, or, you know, somebody they haven't talked to for a long time and something they wanted to say to them? Those kinds of things, you know, you don't know. Do they have children and want to leave love letters behind for their children? And there's, you know, there's all kinds of things to be going through. Music, where they want to pass away, is the room ready for that, or where they want to be? I've had people who wanted to be out on their back porch, you know, so you have to look at things as, is there a roof, is it warm enough, you know, but you set it up.
Okay. So you're talking about not sort of just being there to help set things up, but you're talking about being there right at the end.
It's a full process. It's being there in the beginning of the process, help if you can, if you're there soon enough, you help them pull all their ideas together, help them with whatever they may be grieving about. It may not be anything. It may be just that they're elderly and they're starting to show physical signs of being in the death process. And that's a lot of what this society has missed, because, you know, people used to pass in their home. You know, grandma and grandpa got old at home and the family took care of them. The kids saw, mom and dad saw. The actual true death process, not from an accident or cancer, can take up to 6 months. You know, there's physical changes that start happening. You know, nature in its way is very kind, and death itself is not painful. What ends up being painful is if they have a disease or a secondary thing going on.
Okay, which brings us sort of to LIFT's particular constituency. Speaking about persons with disabilities, the questions regarding the end of life may become more complicated and, dare I say, fraught. Persons with disabilities often have the experience of feeling that they are expendable and that their quality of life is questioned even before the end of life becomes imminent, and discounted by many, both medical and social service professionals, not to mention their own family and friends, no matter how well-meaning.
Yeah.
Is that something EODs receive any particular training on? Is that something you have encountered in your own work?
It's more something I've encountered on a personal level, but in the ethical training of becoming a doula, you understand that a person's passing is a very personal process. It's individual to them. You know, we have the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, and it's the same thing in our deaths. We have the right to pursue our death in whatever way we want to, and that includes people with disabilities. So if a death doula was to go to somebody with a disability, depending upon the disability, you would have the same conversations with them on whatever level they could participate in. Even if it was just as simple as what clothing would they want to have put on them after, a lot of traditions after dying is to wash down the body and then change them into their Sunday best. Those are the kinds of things that we can help them with that become very personal. Do you have a special outfit that you would like to wear? Where is it? Do we need to go get it? What do you want happening around you? They have the rights to those things too, but unfortunately in our society, like you said, it's just assumed they don't want to deal with it when nobody's even tried to talk to them about it. And many times people who are disabled or living alone die alone. And, there's nobody there to hold their hand or keep their lips moist or, wash their forehead and tuck them in and help them feel as comfortable as possible.
Well, nobody likes to think that they or their loved ones are going to die. We all know it. No one gets out alive, is what I heard a
Absolutely.
preacher say once.
There isn't anybody that does.
And so what are some steps that people sort of need to contemplate? And I think you mentioned a few areas that you might want to expand on, but contemplate to help make it easier when we get to that, whether it's 6 months or shorter.
Or years.
Yeah.
I think the most important thing right now is to start talking about it. And one of the ways we plan on addressing the issue is to have what's called a death cafe.
And this is Lyft you're
And this is, through Lyft.
Right.
I'm planning on starting a death cafe where people can come and talk to each other. Even if it's just you're getting to an age where it's like, yeah, I know I'm going to die in 10, 15 years. Maybe I should start thinking about this, getting your will in place, putting a post in place, because none of us know when. And it's never too early, because I've even found within my own family in addressing the things that I want when I've gone to some of my kids and I say, hey, this is what I want. Some of them have gotten upset. Why would you do that? So it takes conversations. It takes time to explain why you might feel the way you do. So having a death cafe is a way of opening that up to the public and bringing in attorneys to deal with wills or the legal documents, bringing in hospice nurses to pre-train and help people understand what's going to happen if I bring mom home so that she can die at home, or dad, or even my child or myself. What does it look like? What do I need to prepare for? Hospice, a lot of people think that all gets taken care of, and it really doesn't when they do it in the home. If you go to a hospice house, pretty much everything is taken care of. But if you have a family member passing at home, hospice brings you the medication, hands it to you and says, okay, this is what you do if this happens, and this is what you do if that happens. Here's the things that you're going to need to care for your family member. And then they say, I'll see you next week. That part of it is not paid for through Medicaid. People need to understand that. It's too late when you're days away from having to get things in place. You need to plan ahead and figure out, can we afford this? What can we afford? What are my options? What am I going to need at home? Do I need to sit the living room up, or are we going to be in the bedroom? Those kinds of things. So the best place to do that is in a death cafe. You have a subject every meeting and address those issues and have an open forum to discuss things and hear different opinions, hear about different options. A lot of days, a lot of times now you hear people talk about how expensive funerals are. Well, somebody might think it's terrible, but I only spent $1,500 on burying my daughter and processing her last wishes. And there are those options out there. And nowadays there's the option of green burials, which are, beneficial to
Depends
the
on the state.
It depends upon the state, but those are the
Right.
kinds of things we talk about.
Exactly.
What's allowed in Montana? What's allowed in Idaho or Washington? It's different. There is a huge discussion board to talk about when you're talking about death, and it should be prepared for just like a birth.
Right,
There are birthing doulas as well.
Right, and so that brings me to another quick question. As somebody who deals with words a lot, what does that word doula mean exactly?
The word doula just means someone who gives emotional, mental, and physical support to someone else.
Okay, so that would
An
make
advisor.
perfect sense that there would be
Right.
birthing doulas and end of life
Yeah.
doulas. And
Well, death has a lot of stigma with it, and but death is just as much a part of life as birth is.
Yep.
And the birthing process is very much like the birthing process. It has its ups and its downs. It has its stages, and people need to know about this so that it's not so scary.
I think we'll end with that thought, that people need to know about it so it's not scary. Thank you, Deborah. Again, Deborah Acosta, LIFT's finance director and a certified end-of-life doula, has been our guest today on Living Well in Montana. For more information about LIFT and our programs, I encourage you to visit www.lift.org or find our app on your Apple or Android mobile device, or just pick up the phone and give us a call. Our number in Billings is 406-259-5181, or our number at our Glendive office is 406-948-8500. Again, my name is Jed Barton. I am a public relations specialist with LIFT, and thank you for watching. Have a great day.